How deep of an infection are you willing to allow in the name of victory? How decrepit and how broken can you become to stick to your original ideal? Or have you ever started out a journey and ended up a complete mockery of where you began? These would be issues that the Death Guard have had to deal with. Death Guard here on Thursdays with Horus. Welcome back. Sorry about the big break. Getting out of the winter here, getting into the spring, which is nice. I've got a lot of, on the hobby table right now, I've got a bunch of Nurgle demons in gray plastic. You can see right there. I'm getting ready to prime. I've got some scions I'm doing for my buddy, Tim McCormick, an Imperial Guard player out of the DC, Virginia area. Real good cat, real cool guy. He's got me working on some scions for him as soon as I get enough time to spray paint them, or enough temperature, I should say, to spray paint them. But things are looking up. We're getting brighter and sunnier, less snow. So it's coming along. So in coming up this year, hobby-wise, I'm really, working on these Nurgle demons. They're going pretty quick. Still got some Alpha Legion to finish off. I've got a couple of Night Moraxes to build. But a lot of my army projects are kind of coming to a head. And some of them are finishing. Some are kind of just getting from build to paint. But a lot of transition and whatnot. Very far off, like foggily, in the deep fog of war. I'm thinking of either doing the Night Lords or the Raven Guard. So either, some stealthy, guys, and either going the complete good guy or the complete bad guy route. I'm interested in both armies. I was looking at it in 40k. There's a lot of good bits for Night Lords for 40k, but I still think I would play them in Heresy, and I would just, a lot of conversions. But that's enough about that. Welcome back to Thursdays with Horus. We're coming up only a few legions left before we hit the end of season 1, and then season 2. Trying to decide, vote if you want, or throw out what you just, what your idea, which is cooler. I'm either going to pick individual characters out of the story and do ones that have models, of course, and then build a list around that model. Or what I'm sort of more leaning towards is going first with the Primarchs, doing another season of 18 episodes, going through all the Primarchs, because they really change your army list building with the how you can unlock like 4 prime slots in your troop slots if you take the right configuration of troops and stuff. It kind of feels like the old rights of war, how they used to be. I think it's really interesting, and I like that it's specifically just for the Primarchs. So I think that'll be more fun for an army building side of things, and just really see how fun and goofy we can get with some of these lists. Yeah, so that's season 2 coming up. But let's get into the Death Guard. That's why you're here. Death Guard. I love them so much. They were my intro into modern Warhammer as an adult, post being a dad, I played a lot when I was like 12, 13, 14, and then took a big break when I became a crummy teenager. And I got back into it once my kid was born, because I had a lot of time at home, and also a nice place to find peace, Death Guard I built first in 2017 when the 8th edition came out in 40k. And I flipped that army. I ended up selling that army, and then kind of bittersweet, I built another Horus Heresy list with Death Guard. It's the one I've got today. I broke my one cardinal rule of not using a named character, because this is a list that I actually played, so I figured I'd showcase it that way. But it was built at the end of 2nd edition and into 3rd edition, so it's not, it's kind of it's got a little bit of an identity crisis in that regard. And it was pretty much rule of cool. It was stuff that I liked. A lot of heavy weapons, because they work well with those. But it was just stuff that I liked. Big, expensive models that were really durable, to go along with the whole Death Guard durability thing. Death Guard, story-wise, big movers and shakers in the Horus Heresy. They're featured in the first trilogy, the Horus Rising arc, as it gets to Istvan 3, which is where the Death Guard are one of the legions that turn on themselves when they're clearing out their ranks along with the World Eaters and Sons of Horus, and the Sons of Horus, of course. So everyone's got that favorite loyalist Nathaniel Garrow. He escapes from Estevan 3. He, the Flight of the Eisenstein, it's his story of like, escaping and trying to, actually finally warn the Imperium about the heresy, what happened to Estevan 3. So Nathaniel Garrow, a really cool character. He kind of continues through in like the Black Shields. The people have kind of thrown off their old legion and have taken up, like a new allegiance to the Imperium, or to the Emperor, if you will. He's real cool. Of course, Death Guard are twisted up with Nurgle, but that doesn't really happen until the very end of the story. And the Buried Daggers is a great book towards the end of the series, where you really get to see the Death Guard go from a legion that, albeit uses lots of radiation warfare, bio warfare, is very resilient and inured against disease, and then of course that's that strength is kind of turned into like a fatal flaw of just they become so invulnerable that nothing, they're so diseased that they can't die, and that's their invulnerability after the Nurgle part. Buried Dagger, really nice, interesting bit. Good story with the end. And then if you get into the actual Siege of Terra, they're all over the place. Typhus and Mortarion showing up left and right. And a really good book is Warhawk. That's kind of the full, final escalation of the White Scars versus the Death Guard done. In the book Scars itself, early in the heresy, the Death Guard show up at the end and whatnot. So they've got a really cool, the fastest, quickest legion and the slowest, most durable legion. Kind of batting heads, I think, is, those two hubrises or hamartias, whatever they are, smashed against each other. You know what I mean? The two, the kind of that Greek myth idea of having, being all these virtues that you have, but having that one big flaw that you can be exploited and stuff. And it's nice seeing that they've got, just that dynamic really comes alive, I think, with the Death Guard versus the White Scars. Shout out to Typhus, Callus Typhon. I think he's my favorite character in the entire series. He's what really got me into Warhammer, like as an adult. I just thought that he, and he also, as I've talked about before, I think he suffers from First Captain Syndrome, where he's like a lot cooler than his Primarch, and especially because he throws off the yoke of his Primarch and kind of does his own thing, even as early as the Siege of Terra. Typhus, Callus Typhon, I've got him in my list. Like I said, I broke my cardinal rule for this one. But I do have, I made a specialized hero, like always, for this guy, for this list. Mortarion himself, of course, the complete antithesis to sorcery in the beginning of the early days of end of the Last Crusade, early days of the heresy. At the Council of Nicaea, he spoke out against Magnus and against sorcery. So, of course, arcing all the way later to him becoming a demon prince and being infused with the warp sorcery and stuff. Like, you can really see that his was like a tragic fall. That Mortarion gets kind of a bad rap. I think he's kind of he kind of suffers what Magnus does, where he just goes off and does his own thing, and he's just like, but like, albeit they both go through such back-breaking, in Magnus's case, trauma, that's kind of understandable. But I think, no matter what, like, love him or hate him, they're great characters. Mortarion's a great character. And just being this total, mockery of his early beliefs, almost like hating himself. Whereas Typhus, loved Nurgle, his soul and his whole, everybody. I don't want to ruin the story and whatnot, but, Typhus is kind of the one responsible for them falling to Nurgle, way more than Mortarion is. Mortarion kind of pulled them all the way, I guess you could say, but Typhus opens the gate. So let's get into their kit that we've got. Excuse me for not being completely prepared. Here we go. Gotcha. Okay. I remember this off the rip. Well, let's go through their armory first. The power scythe that you can take for command champions and sergeants, which is really nice. So even your basic assault sergeants can take one of these. It's a power axe, so -1 to initiative, +1 to your strength, AP 3 with breaching 5, but it also has reaping blow. So it's a, it's when you're outnumbered, you're going to get those extra 2 hits. Very good for characters. Very good for honestly, like it's just slightly more expensive power axe. I think it's plus 5 points over the power weapon. Or no, excuse me, it's 10 points exchanged, or power fist is 5 points exchanged for 1. But as an upgrade over a power axe, if you lose some guys and you're outnumbered, or just you're a smaller unit of Terminators, it's going to do some work for you. Unnatural resilience. This is a prime slot that you can take for a Centurion model, and it gives them +1 wounds and Eternal Warrior 2. Eternal Warrior 2 is huge. Even that's like Primarch level of damage 3. You need to hit them with damage 4 in order to do multiple hits of damage. Damage 1, 2, and 3 will just go down to damage 1 on these guys, plus an extra wound. I threw that onto a Cataphracte Terminator, and like, I don't think I've ever seen him lose a challenge. Albeit, like I only rocked him out like 4 or 5 times probably, but that guy survived. And that's kind of the, hit best or hit last, or what is it, hit first or hit best, is a good example of the, the Death Guard are hitting best. They're built so they can soak the hits, and then they can swing at you with that Thunder Hammer or with that Power Fist, even if they've been struck first. Death Cloud is a special rule that is given to Death Shroud Terminators and, excuse me, not Death Shroud, to the Grave Warden Terminators as well as Mortarion, where you do a free attack at the start of the fight phase. I think in Initiative 10, or no, excuse me, yes, yeah, it's only Strength 1, but Poison 3 up, 1 damage, AP 5, so it's, you're still going to get your armor saves off of your Space Marines, but still, it's just an extra attack just from being in close combat with these guys. They're poisoned air and stuff like that. The Legion Tactica is great. If you move 4 inches or less, then you retain, it is as if you stood still for heavy weapons. So you're not going to get your ordnance shots, but all your heavy guns are going to get it. This kind of moves into that idea of them being slow, because they are shooting at full velocity, 100% ballistic skill, when they move slowly. So you still can rush, and you can still move a little bit faster if you need to get into position, especially getting those tacticals onto objectives and things like that. But also your tacticals, they count their bolters as heavy 1 if they stay still, so you can move it at 4 inches and still get your double slat or your triple tap with the bolters. Just a great Legion Tactica, very useful. Definitely leads into a shooty force for sure. But the Gambit is a nice one. You increase your toughness skill to their weapon skill. You take your you take your toughness score, and it then equals their weapon skill. So I saw this one. Oh my god! When you're fighting a Primarch, you're never gonna die. You just suddenly you've got toughness 7, you got toughness 8. I had one guy who did the finishing blow where it boosted his weapon skill, and because of that, it boosted my toughness enough where I wasn't taking wounds from him. Like, it's just really fun gambit that you can throw every time. They also have an extremely useful additional detachment with the Reaping Host. It's going to buy you 2 troop slots, one of which is prime, a support unit, and a shock assault unit. So it's kind of like your Terminators and your heavy weapon squads, or your rapier batteries and things like that. Those 2 slots are limited, where you can only take 2 of them in an attachment normally. So having them built into something with troops already, real nice. And also just another way to slip some variety into your list there is using this instead of using 2 different detachments of 2 of each. You can just pop this and go with 1 of each. Helps you get those heavy weapons in, so you can use that Tactica. Their advanced reaction is phenomenal. You take a shooting attack, you immediately get rid of all your status effects. You get a Feel No Pain 5 up, and you cannot take status effects for the rest of that shooting phase. Just dynamite stuff. You can use it. It's just you need to survive. Or honestly, if you've got some unit that's just pulverized by shocked and stunned, or routed, and just someone shoots at your routed unit, boom, you're no longer routed. Boom, 5 up, Feel No Pain. Like, good stuff. And then and if they're hitting you with flamers or anything like that, it's not going to proc that on you that time. Okay, moving along. Death Shroud Terminators are excellent. They are a elite slot, so they have an elite slot for these guys, and they have another Terminator slot that's going to be in Shock Assault. So it's actually pretty easy to fit these both into an army list. The Death Shroud Terminators have Eternal Warrior 1. So 2 damage goes to 1, 3 damage goes to 2 on these guys. So they need to be hit with 3 damage to be killed outright, essentially, which is, already on a durable unit. Like, they're built just like Taros Terminators. So they're going to have that move 7, 5-up invuln, implacable advance, all that good stuff. And then they also have Alchem Casters, which are little poison 2-up pistol flamers. So that means you're going to be able to fire those in volley fire, and they're, volley fire with a template weapon. Like, 2-up poison, you're going to be forcing a lot of saves on when you're getting charged on your charges, or honestly, just when you're doing your shooting. Finally, the Grave Wardens. The Grave Wardens come with Vanguard 3. They've got that death cloud built into them. They're slow and purposeful because they are cataphracti. Cataphracti. It sounds cooler, like octopi. The cataphracti, they're all built with 3 attacks, which is fantastic. 3 attacks with Vanguard 3, that's what I'm looking for in a like Terminator unit. And these guys are not an elite slot, they're not a retinue slot. They fit right nice into a Shock Assault spot. They come with assault grenade launchers, which can either be fired as crack grenades, solid 2 damage, strength 6 shots, 2 apiece, or they can be fired as toxin, where you get a bunch of them, 3 shots, poison 3 up with 1 damage. So one's good for hitting hard targets, one's good for shredding infantry. And then they pretty much all have they all have Power Fist as well, which is dynamite. No notes. Fantastic for a squad of Terminators there with 3 attacks. So good kit coming up from the Death Guard. I like it all. Their durability is built into their prime slot advantage and their Terminator units, I would say. And then the rest of it, they just have that slow and that dull charge. Everyone's just going 4 inches but still firing at full ballistic skill. Really leans into a shooty force. So let's take a look at what I got. This, I'm not gonna lie, I've not looked. I sold my list and I was like, oh man. So I haven't looked at this list in a while, but we'll be kind of walking through it together. It starts out, we'll go through the primary detachment, the Crusade detachment rather, with Callus Typhon as my high command. Callus, he's got Biomancy built into him. He's just I think he's Eternal Warrior 1, just a real tough nut to crack. I've got a Centurion, 2 Centurions. One is in this list, actually, I had a Jump Pack Centurion. This one took the Unnatural Resilience. So he's got +1 wound with Eternal Warrior 2. He's got a Power Fist and a Combat Shield. The next one, my Centurion, was a pair of Lightning Claws and Melt-A-Bombs. This guy I named Right Guard Mung. I know he didn't have the prime slot, but my buddy sent me some Space Wolf models that he had that I could work into my Death Guard. And one of them had I painted with a shock of red hair. He had the dual Lightning Claws. He looked exactly like my buddy Richard, who is a Space Wolf in real life. Richard McKee, a hobby father, got us all into this game when we were younger, and kept us into it when we were adults and stuff like that. So I named, instead of Richard McKee, it's Right Guard Mung. And he was, like just hiding a little pair of dual Lightning Claws in a Death Guard list. People don't really see it coming. Finally, I had a Librarian. They took Telekinesis and Divination, so that's that Kind Shield for a shrouded role, and Divination makes you incredibly killy in a challenge. You have a psychic power where you can hit on 2-ups if you pull it off, which is unheard of in melee, let alone like you be going up against a Primarch, and this guy is hitting on 2s even against the Lion. Nuts stuff. I took a 10-man Despoiler squad. Chainswords, powered, pretty much everyone's just a chainsword guy. No special weapons except for a power scythe on the captain. And then I took a Master Sergeant on those guys, so that he's got an extra attack and an extra pip of weapon skill, because I paid for the special weapon, so I might as well pay for it to do some damage. I took an Armored Fist simply for a Spartan with twin las cannons and the las cannon arrays. I usually take laser destroyers on my Spartans, but since the las cannon arrays are heavy weapons, I'd be able to do the move 4 inches and still fire them, so I went that direction there. I took a tactical support with 6 rapier batteries on the graviton cannons, as well as 5-hand heavy squad of Volkite culverins. Like I said, this was kind of on, I was using a lot of models that I had from 2nd edition into this list, so there's like, sometimes there's a little less synergy, which was one of the reasons that I kind of got rid, sold it with, now I can build a new one that is built around 3rd edition and has a little bit more of that, cohesion. But I've got 5 Volkite culverins in there for just shredding infantry, and I've got the graviton carriers. They're really good at slowing stuff, they're really good at pinning. They can pin things, keeping them from moving, which was really kind of helpful. It's like I wasn't, I was moving really slow, but then I was stopping my enemy from moving. Is the idea. I took a auxiliary heavy support, and I got that Saturnine Dread, and I got the one with the inversion beam and the graviton pulverizer. I think if I build another one, I will trade with somebody and duel up the weapons, because both the weapons were really good, but I felt like you wanted to have both of them, double up. But each one, it was actually kind of cool. The graviton pulverizer pinned things, and it like broke open the transport, and then the inversion beamer just annihilated everything that was inside of it. It's inverse conversion beamer, so you get more powerful the closer you get. I just had him walking behind the despoiler squads. They had to go into the despoilers instead of him, and he was just having a field day. Took a combat retinue with a prime slot, an 8-man Praetorian command squad with jump packs. This list was kind of like Death Guard, but fast, was one of the ideas that I had for it. You got the Spartan moving your Terminators, then you got this Praetorian command squad. I love taking the command squad. They don't have Vanguard, nor do they have line, but they're just completely equipable however you want. They have weapon skill 5, they have 2-up save, they have 2 wounds. They're better than vets. And with the Master Sergeant, it actually, since the guy's already a champion, it just bumps up his leadership. So they're like, I think it's like leadership like 9 or something, out of control. And I took 5 Power Fists in there with just 2 chain swords to catch, a couple wounds going in. Finally, I took one of the Reaping Hosts, the special detachment, with a tactical squad that got that special prime slot. And this one I used for a Log Benny, that old logistical benefit, my Eggs Benny, Log Benny, to get a armored. And I took a Kratos assault tank. When I'm looking at this, I actually have so many auxiliary slots. I could have just paid for the armor slot for this guy, and then I could have given that tactical squad, combat vets or something like that. But not, this wasn't a perfect list. This was built right when 3rd edition came out. But I finished up with that Kratos, melt a blast gun, las cannon, 2 spots and las cannons, and then a pintle-mounted multi-melta, just all the big gun you could imagine on a really durable list. And the nice thing is that you can move 100%. That thing is, what's the word for it? I cannot remember the word off the top of my head, but it allows you to move and still fire all your weapons at full ballistic skill, as well as you can split fire without any ballistic skill problem. Stable, that's what it is. It's a stable vehicle, one of the only stable vehicles in the game. So that kind of leans into the movement, but still firing all your big guns side of this list. And that, and then finally, I've got a heavy support squad with 5 las cannons in that detachment, as well as 5 Grave Warden Terminators. Love the models, real cool. And the 5 Grave Wardens with Callous Typhon in the Spartan. Shucks Addy, that did some work. That and the Kratos. One thing was pop the transports, and then my transport was moving up and dumping that squad in there. The Grave Wardens are kind of held back by only having weapon skill 4, but the amount of attacks you get with all Power Fists, I think, kind of makes up for it in the end. So that was my list. I'll post it here. Like I said, this one has a special place in my heart because I built it, I painted it, I played it, and then I sold it. That's what I sort of do. I say, I build a list, and usually I work with it for about 2-3 years, then I flip it. A few of them I'll never sell. I'll never sell my Salamanders. I'll never sell my Seraphon. I actually just ended up selling my Tyranids, which I never thought I was going to do, but times be as they are and whatnot. But hey, back to work, back to the channel. I haven't played a game of Heresy in a while, so I'm going to get back into Heresy here as well soon. But yeah, I'd like to hear your thoughts on the Death Guard, your lists that you might have, and what's on your hobby table. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for staying this long, and I hope you guys have a great weekend coming up here. Cheers.